Ladies and gentlemen, President Trump just scored an absolutely massive win in the Congressional House of Representatives, and I'll tell you what, the progressive left is absolutely melting down. You see, just hours ago, in an extremely close 215 to 214 vote, the House of Representatives officially passed President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill, which marks an absolutely historic triumph for President Trump's America First agenda. So, folks, take a look at this landmark moment, then we're going to have a lot to talk about.
On this vote, the yeas are 215, the nays are 214, with one answering present. The bill is passed. USA, USA.
So, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. The bill has been passed. Now, as many of you may remember, in 2017 and 2018, President Trump worked tirelessly to get his budget passed by the rhinos in Congress, Republicans in name only, but they totally refused to work with him. So now, 7 years later, he's officially got his budget, which means now President Trump can finally go full steam ahead with actually making America great again. So today, let's break down some of the key components of President Trump's budget bill, and let's take a look at how the progressive left is handling all of this. So first off, President Trump's budget bill makes life for everyday middle-income Americans much more affordable in a variety of ways. For instance, it makes his 2017 tax cuts permanent, which effectively gives a 22% tax cut to the middle class. It also completely eliminates taxes on tips, taxes on overtime pay, and it gives a $4,000 tax credit to people that are receiving Social Security payments. Now, originally, President Trump wanted to remove taxes on Social Security altogether, but various rhinos amongst the congressional Republicans decided to shut that down. So you can thank the rhinos, the Republicans in name only, for that one. For American parents, Trump's budget bill increases the child tax credit from $2,000 up to $2,500, meaning that parents get to keep more of their own money to help raise their own children. The bill also gives newborn American babies a taxpayer-funded $1,000 savings account that will begin collecting compound interest immediately the second they're born, which means that finally we're done selling out future generations of Americans. And now, folks, we have a lot more to talk about here, but before we do, I want to say real quick that if you guys enjoy the daily news updates, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a lot. But okay, check this out. Regarding border security and deportations, Trump's big, beautiful bill allocates almost $44 billion to finish building the border wall, to build more ICE detention centers all across America, and to hire tens of thousands of new Border Patrol agents and ICE agents. So as you can imagine, the progressive left is particularly upset about this part of the bill. But perhaps the component of President Trump's budget bill that has the progressive left most infuriated is that now, in order to qualify for Medicaid, you have to actually prove that you're a United States citizen. That is a big problem for the Democrats. As many of you know, in just the last couple of months, the Department of Government Efficiency has found millions of illegal aliens that have been collecting Medicaid at U.S. taxpayers' expense. And of course, this was a fundamental component of the Democrats' master plan to replace everyday Americans with tens of millions of third world illegal aliens. So this budget bill just delivered a major blow to the anti-American agenda of the progressive left. Now, President Trump's budget bill also cuts funding for programs pertaining to critical race theory and DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and instead reallocates that money towards helping resolve the growing veteran homelessness issue and overhauling our country's antiquated air traffic control system so that hopefully we can put a stop to all of these airplane incidents that have been taking place. But folks, I'll tell you what, here's the truth. Without President Trump's personal leadership, this bill would have never taken place. As many of you know, the congressional Republicans are pretty much like a bunch of chickens running around with their heads cut off. In fact, This is actually the least effective congressional majority in over 70 years since the 1950s. So, over the last couple of weeks, President Trump has had to be more hands on than ever, personally directing the congressional Republicans step by step, with many of them even dragging their feet along the way. But after all of that work, it all paid off, and now President Trump finally has his budget. But so, folks, like we said earlier, right now, the radical progressives aren't exactly happy. In fact, take a look at this. Just earlier today, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries posted 3 paragraphs of fear-mongering progressive propaganda that I won't bore you all with reading, but the progressive narrative right now is that President Trump's budget bill is cutting Medicaid for millions of people inside of America. Now, what the progressives fail to mention is that those millions of people who are having their Medicaid cut are actually illegal alien invaders who have been soaking up taxpayer-funded benefits in spite of the fact that they shouldn't even be in the country in the first place. So once again, right now, the entire progressive narrative boils down to the fact that the Democrats care more about illegal alien invaders than they do about hardworking American taxpayers. Let the record show. And so, folks, with all of that being said, take a look at this.
Hey, Hakeem, why are you lying about the cuts to Medicaid? Saying that there are cuts to Medicaid when there clearly aren't. It seems. Do you want illegals to have taxpayer-funded health care? Is that what you want? You want illegals? You want U.S. taxpayers to fund health care for illegals?
Folks, did you notice that smug little smile on Hakeem Jeffries' face? He knows exactly what he's doing. He's intentionally lying to the American public, saying that the evil President Trump is cutting Medicaid for Americans, when in reality, President Trump is cutting Medicaid for illegal aliens that are leeching off of our system. But luckily, the American people aren't buying any of the Democrats' progressive lies. We all know exactly what they're doing, and we all see right through their anti-American propaganda. But okay, so folks, now that the House of Representatives has passed President Trump's budget bill, what happens next? Now, the budget bill gets sent off to the Senate where it needs to get 51 votes to pass so that it can land on President Trump's desk in the Oval Office. Luckily, right now we have 51 Republicans in the Senate. However, as many of you know, some of those Republican senators are just Republicans in name only, rhinos. That said, really, President Trump only needs to get 50 votes in the Senate rather than 51, because in the event of a tie, J.D. Vance gets to step in and act as the tiebreaker. So even if 3 Republicans in the Senate decide to betray the America First agenda, and you know what, I'm sure a few of them will, things are still looking pretty good for President Trump. I will say, though, any Republican that votes against this bill in the Senate will pretty much be committing career suicide, because the entire country will know that they got in the way of putting America first and making America great again. And you know what? Between you and me, these days, we just don't have room in the Republican Party for any more of these rhinos. You can either get with the America First agenda or you can get out of the way. But I'll tell you this much, America First is inevitable. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before we wrap up, I do want to say real quick that we officially have a Morse News Twitter page as well as a Morse News Facebook page. So if you use either of those platforms, please go down below and drop a follow in order to get breaking news updates that relate to everything we talk about here in the YouTube videos. But everyone, that is going to be a wrap for today's video, so please go down below and drop a comment. Let me know what you think about all of this. Please like the video while you're down there, and like I said earlier, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton. Thank you all very much for tuning in today, and of course, as always, stay safe.